All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. We're bridging the gap today between basic Python knowledge and making our code actually think and react to users. If you've been following along with lectures 1 and 2, you know the fundamentals. You know how to write simple instructions. But today, we're leveling up. We're taking the leap from static, boring code that just sits there to dynamic, interactive programs that can literally hold a conversation with whoever's at the keyboard.
Here is our roadmap for getting there. We'll start by mastering strings, then move into operators and logic, followed by typecasting, user input, and finally, we'll wrap up by solving a real coding problem together. Let's get to it. Section 1, Mastering Python Strings. Let's look at how Python handles and formats text, because honestly, this is the absolute foundation of all user interaction. We've touched on this previously, but strings are absolutely essential because they form the vocabulary of our code. Whether it's a single letter like a full word, or an entire paragraph of instructions, a string is simply a sequence of characters. It is the primary way we communicate back and forth with our users. You know what's really clever? Python actually gives us 3 different quote types to create these strings, just so we don't confuse the system. You can use single quotes, double quotes, or even triple quotes. Now, why on earth would we need 3 different ways? Well, imagine you want to write a phrase with an apostrophe in it, like "this is a pornocologist tutorial." If you wrapped that whole sentence in single quotes, Python would see the apostrophe in colleges and think, oh, the string ends right here. Everything after that point would just break your code. But by allowing us to wrap the string in double quotes instead, that single quote on the inside becomes perfectly safe. It's a tiny design choice, but trust me, it saves us a massive amount of headaches. But what happens when we want to format our text? Since we can't exactly just press the Enter key to drop our text down a line, because hitting Enter just moves us to the next line of code, Python uses these special tools called escape sequence characters. If you type \n inside your string, Python reads that and pushes everything after it to a completely new line in the output. Similarly, \t creates a nice, clean tab space. They're basically invisible formatting tools built right into your code's vocabulary. And as you get more comfortable here, you're going to unlock built-in string functions that let you instantly slice text apart, capitalize words, replace characters, or even hunt down specific pieces using powerful commands like ends with, count, or find. It's like having text editing superpowers. Moving on to Section 2, Python Operators and Logic. Let's see how our vocabulary built into the mathematical and logical engine of Python. We use these symbols to manipulate our data. Looking at arithmetic, you've got the usual suspects: addition, subtraction, multiplication. But check out a couple of the special ones. The double star? That's for calculating power or exponents. And the percentage sign is the modulo operator, which grabs the remainder of a division. Oh, and here's a fantastic little quirk about Python. If you divide 2 whole integers, let's say 4 divided by 2, the answer will surprisingly always return a decimal or floating point value, like 2.0. Below that, we have our assignment operators. Remember, a single equals sign does not mean equal to in Python. It means assign the value on the right to the variable on the left. And operators like plus equals are great because they let us take a variable's current value, add something to it, and update it, all in one swift step. So the really crucial takeaway here is that operators aren't just for math. They are decision-making tools. They help our code evaluate reality. Relational operators compare things. That double equal sign, that is how we actually ask Python, hey, are these 2 things exactly identical? Exclamation equals asks, are these not equal? The result is always a Boolean, true or false. Then we have logical operators, not, and, or. These let us combine multiple conditions together. The AND operator only returns true if both sides of the argument check out. The OR operator returns true if at least one side is true. This is the core of your program's brain. Literally, these logic operators are the exact triggers you're going to use inside your if, elif, and else conditional statements to route exactly how your program behaves. Section 3, Typecasting data. We can calculate, we can evaluate, but what happens when our data is just in the wrong format? Well, Python handles data translation in 2 distinct ways. First up is implicit conversion. Python is smart. It tries to upgrade simple numbers automatically. For example, if you add an integer like 2 to a float like 4.25, Python knows that a float holds more detailed information. It's kind of the superior data type. So it automatically upgrades your integer 2 into 2.0 before doing the math, ensuring no data is lost. Pretty neat, right? But sometimes Python refuses to guess. Like if you try to add the actual word to a number. That's a no-go. That's where explicit typecasting comes in. As the coder, you have to manually act as the translator, wrapping your data in functions like int, float, or string to force that translation to happen.
Section 4, User Input in Python. This brings us perfectly to the climax of our code's conversation. Up until now, everything has been hard-coded. We literally typed out exactly what the data was inside the script, but the input function completely flips the script. When your code hits an input function, it literally pauses its execution. It just sits there, waiting for the user to type something into the terminal and hit enter. Suddenly, your variables are defined on the fly. This is what makes your program dynamic and truly reactive to whoever happens to be sitting in front of the screen. Now, massive gotcha here, and it brilliantly illustrates exactly why we just talked about typecasting. When the input function receives data, even if the user types the number 25, Python always captures it as a string first. Always. It sees text characters, not a mathematical integer. If you try to take that user's 25 and multiply it by 2 right out of the gate, Python is going to throw an error in your face. You absolutely have to explicitly cast that user input by wrapping it in an int or float function if you want to actually use it for math.
Section 5, Solving Coding Problems. Let's combine all these isolated blocks to solve a real problem, proving that this stuff actually builds working programs.
Imagine we need to build a specialized calculator for a geometry student. The program needs to ask the student for the side length of a square and then spit out the total area. How do we trace that data from start to finish using the tools we just learned? All right, here is our perfect 4-step logical flow. First up, we use the input function to prompt the user, asking them to enter the square's side. Step 2, knowing that input always gives us a string, we wrap that entire input statement in a float function. We use float instead of integer just in case the student enters a decimal, like 4.5. Step 3, we apply our arithmetic power operator, that double star we talked about. We raise that float variable to the power of 2. And finally, step 4, we use the print function to push that newly calculated area variable right back out to the terminal screen so the student can see it.
And just like that, you've bridged the gap. You've taken basic static data types, mastered the vocabulary of strings, used operators to calculate and evaluate logic, and most importantly, you've opened the door to your user with the input function. You now possess the fundamental grammar to build a truly interactive Python program. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Now that your code can literally listen, think, and respond, what real-world problem are you going to translate into code next?